Today we will talk about how to live more than 100 years and discuss 18 scientifically proven tips on what needs to be done for this. I will explain it as simply as possible. I will also present to you the conclusions reached after the analysis of a number of countries who are ahead of any other country in the world in terms of the number of people living more than 100 years. You may not know how old I am and how my life was going. I'm 60, and I'm much healthier now than when I was on. 1. I have deeply studied the topic of longevity, and I will share with you very important information that you can apply in your life. But first, I'll show you a clip from the video that illustrates how medicine or science explains longevity. When people lived in caves, half of the people did not live to be 30 years old. By 1840, this age had risen to 30. Half of the people did not live to see the stranger. For tens of thousands of years, from cave times to the middle of the 20th century, with achievements in medicine. And by the way, in those days everyone ate organic food. It's a fact. The water was clean, the air was clean. The game was free range, but it did nothing to help. It's all about science here, you know? You could eat as much organic food as you like, but you didn't live to be 30 until the doctor came and said, "We can extend you." Life through science. I will analyze this clip a little, because here the facts are presented somewhat selectively. Absolutely. At the beginning of the 20th century, people lived on average to only 32 years old. That's pretty little. Over time, the average life expectancy was rising. The question is this: is this only related to science and medicine? That's the big question. In the view of most people, science and medicine are vaccines, antibiotics and drugs. But the problem is that a sharp jump in life expectancy occurred before vaccines were widely used and before antibiotics were created. A big jump in life expectancy occurred thanks to the engineers who created the water supply and sewerage systems. They saved cities from sewage, not only in the USA, but also in France, Great Britain and other countries. And life expectancy there has grown about the same, simply by virtue of one unmentioned fact. In those days, more than half of the children did not live to be 15 years old. If you make an allowance for this fact in these calculations, it turns out that life expectancy was much, much higher. After all, most of these children died from certain infections, from cholera, typhus and dysentery, which were accompanied by chronic diarrhea. And with the advent of water supply and sewerage systems, these diseases have literally disappeared. Yes. Then antibiotics appeared in medicine and increased life expectancy, undoubtedly. But the big question is, if we are talking about longevity, do we want to deal with the disease? Or we want to create health? These are two completely different things. When you deal with the disease, you do not eliminate its causes. After all, you still need to take medicine to keep something under control. Today you can. To make anyone live to be 100 years old simply by connecting them to life support. But what about this man's quality of life? Personally, I want to live only as long as the quality of my health. Hi! I don't want to end up in a nursing home with senile inestation and a bunch of other problems, having my diapers changed, dressed and fed me. This is not life. Therefore, today we will focus on creating health. It's not at all the same as managing a disease. I'm talking about increasing your fitness stock. To increase your ability to be healthy, maximum oxygen consumption test is almost the best test to determine this ability and to predict life expectancy. So creating health is something else. After all, we optimize function, improve the quality of life, increase the flexibility of metabolism and sensitivity to hormones to make them work. We want to achieve tremendous stress resistance and adapt to life much better at the expense of a powerful parasympathetic nervous system to go to bed. fell into a wonderful dream, slept for 8 hours, and woke up feeling rested. Creating health also includes maintaining muscle mass with age. After all, with age, people lose muscle mass. It's sarcopenia. This happens often. A person loses muscle mass, and with it a lot of health. Sleep quality is very important. The intestine and its microflora are very important. It is extremely important not to accumulate visceral fat. This is fat around internal organs. Let's compare our approach with medical approach. If you have a sleep problem, doctors give you medicine. Does it increase the quality of sleep? No. You're just being unconscious for longer. Do they eliminate hypertension? No, they just reduce the pressure. Liquefy the blood. You are given beta blockers. They block the receptor and the pressure decreases. Acid reflux, bloating, not welding. Here's a pill for you. Wow, is this fixing something? No, it suppresses the symptom, causes side effects, and you need more medication. I do not argue, this approach really prolongs life, but at the cost of side effects and a decrease in the quality of life. Now let's talk about Japan. The fact is that Japan is a country where there are more people over 100 years old than in any other country. Now there are 95.119 people who are over 100 years old. Go crazy. We'll analyze everything they're doing so we can do it too. To do. There is a place where people live even longer than in Japan. This is Hong Kong. There are fewer people in Hong Kong than in Japan, so there are fewer centenarians in it. But people in Hong Kong live a very long time. There are very interesting data on the causes. Longevity that goes against what would be expected. Why is Japan so unique? The first thing that attracts attention is their school system. They have a completely unique educational nutrition program, which is mandatory by law. Children are taught there by nutritionists, who are not even close to being influenced by the garbage food industry, as in America. That is, these children already at an early age receive a huge amount of excellent information about nutrition. This will help them in the future. Imagine that already in childhood, you would eat healthy food. That's what I'd like. I eat all the muck. In America, children are also taught something, but they spend only 8 hours for the whole year. At the same time, there is still a big question about the quality of the information about health and food that they are told. After all, they are trained by nutritionists, who are strongly influenced by the garbage food industry. And this is a well-known fact. If in doubt, I will leave the link below for you. So what do these kids eat? Yes, they eat rice in America. We are fed more with wheat and other cereals that are heavily refined, as well as industrial starches. But in Japan, rice is less refined, it is not genetically modified so that there is no glyphosate in it. Yes, in America, wheat is also not genetically modified, but it is still sprayed with glyphosate to dry, and glyphosate is a herbicide. In Japan, children are taught that fish and meat are good for health. Soy is also eaten there, but not soy products like in America, like soy protein isolates. Fermented soy is eaten in Japan, which is a completely different product. In Japan, children eat soups, vegetables and seaweed, which are very high in iodine. But in algae, in addition to iodine, there is a mixture of all trace elements. The average person in Japan uses 9 times more iodine than people in America. And iodine, among other things, is a powerful antiestrogen. That is, it helps prevent excess estrogen. It's also interesting that the Japanese consume more salt than the Americans, but they also consume more potassium. And the problem with eating only table salt is actually that you do not consume other minerals to maintain balance. In fact, salt sensitivity is a lack of potassium. If you consume enough potassium together with sodium, do not there will be pressure problems and an increased risk of stroke. After all, we have a sodium-potassium pump, which gives the cage everything you need to run the battery inside it. And in Japan, they use a lot of fermented soy. And this is one of the best sources of vitamin K2. K2 not only helps to strengthen bones and prevents bone loss, that is, osteoporosis and osteopenia, but also prevents calcium from being deposited in the vessels. Friends, now subscribe to channel and click on the bell to enable all notifications. If you do not select all notifications, YouTube may not remind you of new videos. With this simple action, you will greatly help the further development of the channel. And we continue. But here, which amazes even more. In the microflora, the Japanese have a certain microorganism, which is actually a marine microorganism, and it digests substances that the Americans do not digest. The fact is that if you eat a very varied food, especially fermented, you will have certain microorganisms that will help you a lot to protect you. They have a lot of special functions, from creating anti-stress hormones such as oxytocin before the creation of neurotransmitters. Some microorganisms create the mucous membrane of the colon, protecting us from leaky bowel syndrome. Others supply us with vitamins and minerals. Still others protect us from attacks. They're part of our immune system. Therefore, it is very important to eat a variety of foods, especially a variety of fermented foods. Many vegetables in American stores, grown on hydroponic, that is, in liquid without soil. Is it possible to get the same microorganisms from water as from soil? You can't. When vegetables grow in soil that has microorganisms, many microorganisms enter the roots and into the plant itself, and this plant becomes a probiotic. So the greens and vegetables in your salad grown on hydroponics aren't probiotics, unlike those from your vegetable garden. If you don't have such vegetables, let's say you don't farmer's market nearby and there is no vegetable garden, then you need to eat fermented food regularly. Sauerkraut is unpasteurized, kimchi is a good product, pickles are a good product. Raw milk cheese, kefir, yogurt. You can do Reuther's probiotic yourself to dramatically improve your health. I'll give the link at the bottom. In the example of the Japanese, we see that fermented food is extremely important. The Japanese also drink a lot of green tea. Phytonutrients in green tea comes first in terms of its health benefits. They protect against cancer, from inflammation, and help remove toxins from the liver. So it is important to include green tea in your diet. I also learned that the Japanese essentially eat until they will be 80% saturated. Personally, for years I did not eat up to 80% of the saturation, but until I drank my stomach to failure and continued to eat. This cell is inside the cell. There are small energy stations that are essentially recycle everything we eat. We eat food, it breaks down, and then all this fuel gets into this little motor. It's kind of a power plant. If you push too much fuel into this power plant, you damage and problems. Overeating usually creates a lot of problems, because if you push so many low-quality calories into this motor, it loses nutrients, mitochondria are damaged, which in the future may turn a lot of metabolic problems. You may be very active, exercising and burning this fuel. That's great. You're spending more calories. But if you are not so active, perhaps it is worth eating and not overeating. I already said about salt and with she needs and enough potassium from food. Potassium is most in avocado, in leafy greens. Another unique feature of Japan is how many steps the Japanese go. The average person in Japan passes more than 6.000 steps a day, and in America only 4.000. They pass 2,000 more steps every day. I recommend taking 7.000 steps a day, because then they start changes. You may have heard of different places that are called blue zones. You could hear the following propaganda. Oh, all vegetarians in the blue zones, they do not eat meat. This does not apply to Japan. By the way, to other countries too. In fact, the Japanese today eat more meat than fish. They eat enough meat. I'll switch to Hong Kong for a second. They eat more meat there than anywhere else. The average person eats there 147 kilograms of meat per year. The question is this: what kind of meat do they eat? They eat a lot of pork and a lot of beef. These are the two products we are told to avoid. And the whole point of it comes down to what I've been talking about for a long time. Find out what everyone agrees with, and what everyone is telling you to do, and do the opposite. Obviously, meat does not harm people in Hong Kong. And there are very few smokers in Hong Kong, and people there eat a lot of seafood. And they also walk a lot. Many steps. So it's there too. Have you forgotten to press the bell? We will discuss 18 practical tips with which you can extend your life. Number 1. Insulin resistance. We are talking about insulin resistance because it is the root cause of so many chronic diseases. This is fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. It will be very wise to reduce insulin resistance by any means to live long and be healthy. It is imperative to say about the best way to determine insulin resistance. After all, you can check blood sugar, and it can be normal for 15 to 20 years, no matter how much sugar you eat. And all because insulin rushes into battle like crazy, and sucks all the sugar out of the blood. And now your sugar is normal. Do doctors check insulin? No, they only check sugar and may miss the problem. There is an analysis for glycated hemoglobin A1C. What is it? In fact, it measures the average blood sugar level in 3 months. In this analysis, they simply look at how much sugar is associated with red blood cells. In the early stages of insulin resistance, the results of the A1C analysis can normally be another 10 to 15 years. You need to check your insulin for an empty stomach. That's a much better indication of what's going on. Unfortunately, doctors do not check this. My advice is to maintain insulin on an empty stomach below 7, or perhaps below 5. There is a lot of confusion about normal insulin levels, since there is no consensus on this. In my opinion, this is very curious and recommend keeping it below 7 or 5. My insulin level on an empty stomach is 2. Insulin on an empty stomach is a very important indicator. How to reduce it? We need to cut back on carbohydrates. Eliminate sugar and hidden starches. So 6. Avoid sugar, including hidden sugar. Hidden sugar is an industrial starch. These are refined bread, pasta, cereal, crackers, cookies, wafers, pancakes. Any starch is hidden sugar. When insulin rises, all kinds of health problems arise. And now insulin no longer enters the cell, it does not receive fuel, and everything flies into tartars. Number 2. Autophagy. Autophagy is a process with the help of which the body utilizes damaged proteins and parts of cells. People do not live long due to damaged cells of mitochondria and other cells. If you start a mechanism that cleans and renews such cells, you will live much longer. How do you do it? With the help of regular interval and periodic prolonged fasting. I have a million videos about it. Some links to them will be at the bottom. At least 2 must starve. Better than 3 days. Just gorgeous. The other day I made a video about 5 days of fasting. Arcs it periodically. Autophagy is one way to extend life much. Number 3. IPC is a test that can be done in a special clinic. This is the main fitness test. That's one measure of how fit you are. Workout boosts your ability to use oxygen, and oxygen prevents inflammation, saves you great physical shape. And this additional margin of safety protects you Oxygen improves sleep, reduces cortisol. It is very important to maintain a very high IPC. Number 4. Mitochondria. Many problems that reduce life associated with problems in the mitochondria. There are several factors here. Several parameters. The fuel enters the mitochondria. Mitochondria is a power plant. Fuel must be of high quality. In the course of biochemical reactions, various components are extracted from food. And at the end of this pipeline, they turn into energy, the so-called ADP. And all biochemical reactions need vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. That is why we need nutrients B1, B2, B3, B4, coenzyme Q10, trace elements manganese, zinc, iodine, copper, and magnesium. They are absolutely indispensable for the work of mitochondria. Without these nutrients, mitochondria will work poorly. With excess garbage food, mitochondria do not work. So there are a couple of reasons for the poor performance of mitochondria, but the main reason is oils from seeds. Their use can severely disrupt the function of mitochondria. Therefore, avoid oils such as soybean oil, corn oil, rapeseed oil. There is actually a test to look at this biochemical factory and metabolic pathway. It's a metabolomic test. He allows you to deeply explore biochemical processes and incoming fuel, identify a bottleneck in this factory where something accumulates and does not go further, and understand what is caused by the lack of some nutrient or the right fuel. What is not enough in the diet of people for the normal functioning of biochemical processes, as the metabolic test of quality amino acids shows. Animal meat, people need to eat it more in order to biochemical processes proceeded correctly. That's why the rhizome works. Diet. That's why people are doing a lot better when they eat more animal protein. So I've already said the importance of fasting. You will live longer thanks starvation, because the body will adapt and become stronger. It is difficult to achieve a high level of health if you do not expose the body to stress intervally, because he needs to recover. And since we're talking about garmesis, let's discuss thermal exposure, whether hot shower, sauna, or jacuzzi. Some beneficial effects of thermotherapy are similar to the effects of training. It's great that you can get a lot of benefits, as if you were training, even though you just lay in the jacuzzi. Curious. Further hardening. Just imagine what the body is forced to do to cope with an ice bath or cold shower. He has to maintain a certain temperature. It activates different genes to survive better. And there is no need to expose the body to too long a shock. Immerse yourself in the cold for a very short time. Then you can go to thermotherapy. This is also useful, but make sure you have a strong enough heart. Even phytonutrients create a little hermetic stress, forcing you to adapt and become stronger. I have already said about training. There are minor training. They imitate training at high altitude. This is training with a lack of oxygen, which forces the body to create new capillaries and larger red blood cells. You can limit the flow of air using a mask. I'm doing it now. To me, like it very much. I think this is a trend of the future. It just increases the benefits of training. We have already discussed interval fasting. What about the sun? Ultraviolet radiation creates a little stress, and the body too. It adapts. Fermented food. Her microorganisms act on us. We adapt, and our microflora becomes more diverse. If a child grows in a super clean, sterile environment, his immune system does not develop. The immune system is strengthened when we become infected and allow the body to cope with the infection. Number 9. Vitamin D. Our genes have evolved in abundance the sun, and today we sit at home. We need more sun and more vitamin D. If you want to really protect yourself and live longer, Your vitamin D level should be at least 60 rewards per milliliter or 80, 60-80. I have it over 100, but that's because I have a lot of old injuries, arthritis, and my body is better if I get a little more vitamin D. Of course, I check my blood calcium and other factors, but at 60 to 80, you'll be in great shape. Social connections are extremely important for longevity. Join many groups. If a person is alone, he becomes lonely. You may not be alone, even if you are alone. The point is that the feeling of loneliness does not contribute to longevity. When someone loses a loved one, they experience broken heart syndrome. This is the greatest stress, and the risk of heart attack increases by 2.000%, it seems, in the first week. Strongest stress. Unfortunately, no one can avoid this. Must have good fitness to get through it. And for this we need hormesis. What does that mean? This is a short, easy stress for the body, which makes it adapt and become stronger. Training, stress destroys something in the body, and it adapts and becomes stronger. I have already said that not to overeat is a good idea. Eat 80% and stop eating. Then this fuel can be used together with all cofactors, nutrients. Everything will work like a clock without harm to us. Number 13. Walking after eating. It's like free metformin. Metformin is a drug to reduce blood sugar in diabetes. It's like free metformin without side effects. We have already mentioned fermented products. They are extremely important for your microorganisms. A small amount of dark chocolate without sugar is very useful for microorganisms. I eat it at lunch every day. Sometimes I add a little to coffee in the morning. Number 15. Sleep. If you do not sleep, you will not live long. For many years, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and think it was good, but I always had to sleep in the afternoon. I paid for lack of sleep. Now I need to sleep at least 7 to 7 hours. I'm trying to sleep for 8 hours. I'll show you how to do it. This is a lifestyle change that makes things much better. Energy, mood. Helps a lot. Intake of magnesium glycine at 1 hour before bedtime. After all, magnesium allows the muscles to calm down. It allows cortisol to decrease. It also lowers body temperature, which is curious. Right before bed, the temperature inside the body decreases slightly. It decreases from 37 degrees by ½ degree. It helps us fall asleep faster. And it also improves delta valnova sleep, during which there are many important processes of body repair and brain detoxification. And the temperature during sleep is very important. Therefore, it is necessary to set the temperature in the room from 17 to 20 grasso. I myself only cover myself with a sheet, set a very low temperature, and sleep much better than under a blanket. If your legs are frozen, wear socks, but try to cool your body slightly. This should improve sleep. More. One factor is light. We are not made for the environment in which we live today, where there is a lot of light. When we wake up in the morning, we sit down at the computer. It emits a blue light on us. If you, like me, sit a lot at the computer, circadian clock is strong. Get lost, they need to be restarted. Here's one very simple way to do it. Get out of the house early in the morning. And don't look directly at the sun, but let the sunlight hit the eyes for 20 minutes. And you look at the blue sky. It seems the exact wavelength we need is 480 metro. This blue light hits the eyes and helps to wake up. And in the evening, when it is dark, if you are at the computer or watching TV, wear glasses with a blue light filter. Thus, you reduce the impact of blue light. Another factor is stimulants, such as excess coffee during the day, excess chocolate during the day. Caffeine blocks receptors for adenosine, because of which adenosine cannot have a calming effect. If you consume a lot of caffeine, as I did, Over time, these receptors will stop working. And now we can't sleep in the evening. No sleep pressure that at the end of the day would plunge us into a deep sleep. And in the morning, it is difficult to wake up even with caffeine, because the receptors no longer work. Sleep is the most important factor. If you improve your sleep, you will live much longer. I want to say a few words about this day. This is a gene. Longevity, which is more strongly expressed in people in Japan and some other parts of the world than in others. It's a genetic factor. But there is good news. That's what you can do to activate this gene. Interval fasting, endurance training, high-intensity interval training, strength training, sauna, hardening. This phytonutrient in green tea, turmeric, curcumin, sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, above in the form of a bada. But I advise you to take just the whole complex of B vitamins. After all, to increase the level above you need B3. And B3 is in red meat, in the liver, in other offal, and so on. Reduction. Visceral fat helps activate this gene, the transition to titans by reducing carbohydrates and more sleep. If you do all this, you will activate this gene and live longer. Number 17. Preservation of muscle mass. With age, develop sarcopenia. This is a loss of muscle mass. Therefore, with age, it is extremely important to continue strength training and get enough protein from red meat or other animal protein to muscle mass remained high. But the trouble is, if testosterone decreases, it is very difficult to build muscles. So you need to maintain both muscle mass and testosterone levels. Testosterone is a base hormone that can be converted into other hormones, so it is extremely important. If a woman thinks about estrogen therapy, perhaps it is better for her to do testosterone therapy, and she will produce estrogen herself as much as she needs. Maintain muscle mass by training. Getting enough protein and all cofactors is very important. Many cofactors are in the protein of the muscles of animals, in their red meat. This will help you. Magnesium will also help maintain muscle mass. And I shot a whole video of testosterone. Intensive training, zinc. And zinc is most in oysters, in red meat. Sufficient amount of sleep and cholesterol. I invite you to a program on healthy chuck and interval starvation from Dr. Berg. It doesn't matter if you are just starting or your progress has stalled. This program can help you. A huge number of video tutorials will be available to you. There is a video about what exactly to eat, where everyone understands. Parts. There are many examples of what and how to eat. I will also tell you what to avoid with all the details. When you try to lose weight, you often face barriers such as parties and holidays, family dinners, eating stress, eating out of boredom. I will give you solutions that will definitely help you. The next item, nutrition, is an important part of healthy theater. You need to understand the basic principles of nutrition when it comes to food. Because food, these are the very bricks from which your health is built. And it depends primarily on how rich this food is with nutrients. It's not just about lowering calories, it's about nutrients. I'll give you a lot of information and knowledge about how to recognize what your body is missing, what to do with it, and how to get what you need from food. Thus, this program increases your chances of success and also demonstrates how to do everything correctly to acquire new healthy habits for the rest of your life.